would threaten a multi-billion-dollar industry. Texas has some of the nation's most restrictive marijuana laws. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Onder Law. Call for a free consultation because winning is what we do at Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-9000. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
What's wrong, Bunky? You sad because others won't give you money so you don't have to work? You sad because you're on the losing side of politics? Let's examine your sadness. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't even play one on radio. But a new survey might explain your sad life or why you are not sad, but genuinely happy. Pollster Nate Silver is out with a new survey. It shows 51% of conservatives claim that they have excellent mental health. Only 20% of liberals can make that claim. Another survey found young liberals, especially girls, are more depressed in their lives. Still another survey noted kids with conservative parents are more likely to have good mental health. And still another survey found Republicans are more satisfied with their relationships than Democrats are. Wow, a lot of surveys. So back to our question. Bunky, why are you so sad? Is it because you live in a fantasy land of multi-genders and rainbows and unicorns? And that there is, in fact, no truth nor happiness?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by STL Fenceworks, celebrating 50 years of industry-leading service for fence, deck, and leisure space solutions. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
Give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Don't vex me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't vex me in. by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please.
I didn't really.
Don't
It wasn't like I was refusing to go on the air.
Don't fence me in.
I didn't have the theme. I was perfectly fine doing whatever, you know, calling the audible and making it all work. But now that the theme is on, it certainly is more comforting. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here, super happy with you. Johnny's over there at the pilot controls. And the guy in the distance who looks actually you look a little bit like, you know, when we see those videos of like suspects being interviewed and stuff like that. I know, but you just look, I don't know.
I look like a criminal. Is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
no.
Wait, let me guess. An Italian from New Jersey. I look like I'm in the mafia, right?
You look good though, man.
Thanks, man.
You definitely look good. And I appreciate you staying over after doing 3 hours of outstanding radio for News Talk STL. And but I want you to be here because, first of all, you're doing some great things for our veterans. This Vic for Vets is what we're talking about here. And I want to get to this, but I want you to hear something that makes this all the more important when it comes to just paying attention to our veterans. So this is making the rounds around the internet, and I believe it's I think it's Elise Stefanik. I don't know, but she's interviewing this liberal dude about the relative spending of our U.S. government on illegals, which we know how much money we're spending to house them, put them here, put them there, put them in hotels, everything else, and how much we spend on homeless veterans. And this guy, because they were advocating for some more money for the migrant problem or whatever they call it, even though they're not migrants. And she was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And here's how it went. We got that audio on there, brother. Let's go ahead and take it away here.
Because I do. So you might want to get a pencil and paper.
Here we go.
Then I would be
No,
able to
we
give
did.
you a
But
very
do you know
good-
the answer? Because
good-
I do. So you might want to get a pencil and paper and take some notes because I'll help you do your job. The federal government spent over $66 billion on illegal immigrants in 2023, according to the Federation for American Immigration. Does anyone here want to guess how much we've spent on homeless veterans in 23? Guess? High? Well, let's just start. Higher, lower, the same? Anybody want to guess?
fractional.
Fractional. Thank you. 3 billion. 66 on illegals, 3 billion on people who have laid down their lives for this country.
I mean, isn't that incredible, Vic? I mean, you probably already knew that, but man, when you see the numbers, and it's amazing that's not headline news. I mean, we saw what happened in New York, you know, as they were housing people, and sometimes they even used homeless shelters to house the migrants,
Right.
and the veterans were out on the street.
Right. That's the whole
Unbelievable.
thing that kills me. You go out there and part of the contract that you sign to be in the military is up to and including death. And the migrants get all the good hotel rooms and the food and the medicine and all that. And our veterans are living in the street. There's something wrong.
Yeah. And on top of that, we continue to some of these people in Washington continue to fight the efforts to have more natural responses to PTSD, that kind of thing. The VA would rather just stuff a bunch of psychotropic medications down their throats instead of allowing them to utilize, for instance, psilocybin, that kind of thing. But that's a broader issue. The bottom, really, the headline here is veterans need more help. They need more advocacy. People like Vic and Vic for Vets. That's why this is so important. So tell me about what's going on, man, and how we can help you.
Well, first of all, you know, everything is national this month and national that month, you know, and I've heard people say, you know, why do vets only get a day? You know, the ones that are living, you know, the ones that are died get 1 day, Memorial Day, and that's it. So we decided we wanted to give them an entire month. So June is Vets Month, and every morning at 11:05, we read about a veteran. We tell you their name, branch, rank, and where they served and what they did. And it's just to say thank you. That's all.
Wow. That's a great way. I mean, I don't know how actually you stop it after a while. You just kind of want to do it all year long.
Well, we
almost.
are. That's the whole point. We're going to do it every day in June. And then starting in July, it's going to be Veterans Monday.
Oh,
and
okay.
then every Monday we'll do a different veteran.
That
So
sounds great,
all
man.
year are for the veterans.
Yeah, that sounds really, really great. What a great idea. And so do people so people can write in? Where do they do that?
They send it in to Ken at newstalkstl.com. That's his email address. And just tell us about your favorite veteran. You know, I mean, everybody's got a favorite veteran. And mine was my dad in World War II. You know?
Mine's my son, who, well, of course, my dad too, and my grandpa in World War I. But my son, who I'm going to see actually this weekend, so I'll have to put his name.
Did you serve?
I did not.
I did not either.
So here's whenever I'm asked about that, and it's really weird because it's almost like I was the 80s generation. So we were basically fat and happy. You know, I graduated high school in 81. I did register for the Selective Service, but because of the hard work of everybody who saved the world in World War II and the Korean War and beyond, and then, of course, the mistakes made in Vietnam, we were not only super safe as a country, but we were also war averse as a country. And so, you know, that's one of the things I really kind of wish that I did, because even if there was not a war, I mean, my son, Ethan, signed up in the middle of the Iraq War,
Right.
You know, but I didn't do that. And I feel like almost I wish I would have thought about it. My dad never really encouraged it or made me feel bad for not doing it. He was in the Navy in the Pacific, but I wish I did, but I didn't.
So December 7th, 1941, every able-bodied male in this country went and enlisted into the military.
Yeah.
My father lied and said he was 18. He was only 17, but that was the willingness to go in there. You know, I saw a great picture of the Yankees are playing the Red Sox, and Ted Williams is at the plate and Yogi Berra is catching. And it said, "Oh, just a guy who flew 12 different missions over the Pacific, and a guy behind the plate who drove a tank onto, you know."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. These guys all served.
Right.
Willingly. They enlisted to do it, to help, to possibly die for their country. And it doesn't matter, by the way, if you go into battle or not. You served, you signed that contract.
Absolutely.
And you said, if it comes down to it, yep, I will give up my life for my country.
Yeah.
And I think we should honor that.
Well, anytime someone says, well, so what war did you serve in? It's like, nah, you know, you were ready. It doesn't matter whether you were, you know, it's like a police officer. You don't ask them, you know, when was the last arrest you made? It's like, as long as you're there, you're there. And you know what's interesting about that, especially in my generation, is that once you grow up and you start to realize things, you're like, well, wow, every single one of my male teachers, at least, was like a World War II veteran. Like my gym teacher, my math teacher, you know, I think it was Dan Rowan on Laugh-In was a veteran. You know, you realize that, you know, we were surrounded by all these guys. I think even Nipsey Russell was a friggin' veteran.
All my uncles, every one of my uncles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, the first tattoo I ever saw on a human was on my Uncle Jimmy, who had an anchor on his arm because he's in the Navy.
Yeah.
You know, and and I just wanted, before we run out of time, can I just mention the huge supporters of our little
Absolutely. Yeah.
DG Firearms, Patriot HVAC, and Best Buy Flooring. And
nice.
We appreciate their support.
That's great.
And
man.
I want to thank you for just being interested in it.
No, I love it, man. I love hearing the stories, and I think it's going to be it's a fantastic deal. I'm so glad you're keeping it alive even past June. And so once you realize just how much this country owes our veterans, and you know, when you look at the Dean Martin roast, just look up on the stage there. Every single one of them served in World War II.
That's right.
You know, it's like it's but you don't really realize because we take so much for granted, and it's really hard. And especially when you look at, especially with the suicide rates of a lot of our veterans from Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond, it's absolutely unacceptably high, and sometimes and you never know why people do that, but sometimes the reality is you come home and everybody kind of forgets about you, really, or they don't want to talk about it, or and so a lot of times there's an isolation factor that's not necessarily everybody's fault, but it does happen. And so the more we kind of bring that celebration to life and treat the veterans like, the American heroes that they are and special people, it really helps.
So 2 quick things, if I may. The first being, the Vietnam vets, they didn't come home to ticker tape parades and welcome home boys and all that, right? We know.
Oh, yeah.
So the other thing is, if you see a guy, because here's my deal. If I'm in the supermarket, if I'm at a restaurant, if I'm at Dunkin' Donuts, if I see a military hat, I will walk up and say, thank you for serving, And Ken and I were talking about, I was at a Quick Trip one time, and I saw the guy, and I said, thanks for serving. And then he went to get coffee. So I'm checking out, getting the cigarettes and the soda. And I said to the girl, and I want to buy that guy's coffee. She goes, what size? I'm like, I don't care. The largest, most expensive size of coffee that you have.
Right.
Just charge me for that. And then I left, because that's the best part, was when you just leave and the guy knows somebody cared about him.
Yeah, right on.
And some of them want to talk. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was remember Carl's Deli on Clayton?
Oh,
the best pastrami sandwiches ever.
Yeah.
I got a pastrami sandwich, and I'm waiting for him to fix it up. And there was a guy with the Vietnam veteran's hat on. And I said, hey, thank you for serving. And he went, well, thank you. And he just started talking. I'm like, oh my God, this guy wants to talk. So I just sat down at the table with him and let him talk. And I realized nobody ever talks to him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, the stories you get. I mean, and you know what's interesting too, is that's how you get, for instance, the stories you talked about, people who lied about, their age and everything else. And like the World War II guys don't talk a lot. My dad never talked about it, except for hating Japanese cars. so that's about it. But then you hear stories about guys, even the Korean War, they go down to the St. Louis post office downtown, and they all went in groups. I mean, and it's like, man, those were the days. And I see you're very emotional about it, and rightly so, brother, because that's really the key. And I think what you're really doing every day now with Vic for Vets is you're doing that. You're having that conversation that's maybe some of these people never had. It's all built into the show, brother.
Yeah. And you mentioned they don't like to talk about it. My father, though, when he was part of the liberation of the concentration camps, and he had a German Luger he brought home, and he cut down a Nazi flag.
Wow.
I kept it.
Amazing.
I can't talk about
but didn't really talk much about
Never talked about anything.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, man. I've talked to women, like daughters of these guys who served, for instance, at the Battle of the Bulge, or on D-Day. And the way they knew that their dads were thinking about stuff is when, for instance, it was a cold ass day and there were these like snow flurries and stuff like that. That was the weather at the Battle of the Bulge. And these guys go right to the picture window and stare outside, and they wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Or like a day like today, just a little bit colder and drizzly and rainy, her dad would go right to the window and stare out the window because that was the weather on D-Day. So, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, Vic, thanks for the testimony, dude.
Sorry, I'm a crybaby.
No. I love it. It's it means something, and I think we're all really super happy for what you're doing and appreciative and full of gratitude, and for also just opening it all up, man, and driving it home. So
let's remember Friday is D-Day. Friday is the anniversary of D-Day.
Yes, indeed. So that's a big deal, and we're so glad that you're making a big deal out of our heroes, and we're proud to be associated with you here at News Talk STL, brother.
We love having you here, man.
Yeah,
Again,
man.
Our supporters are DG Firearms, Patriot HVAC, and Best Buy Flooring. So
all
thank you.
Perfect. And by the way, so if people want to know more, they just go to the News Talk STL site.
It's all there. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's all up there, and you guys can find out how you can honor your favorite veteran and your people, or and maybe even if it's somebody like you met at a coffee shop like Vic did and you remember their name, that's cool too. So
thank you, Jamie.
I appreciate you, brother. That is the great Vic Porcelli, 9 to noon here on News Talk STL every day, at least 5 days a week, and doing great work on behalf of this community and our veterans. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you so much. All right. I don't know. Did you guys see that article in the paper about the convention center and the parking? There's something to it that you might need to know about that wasn't maybe even really talked about in that thing. Talk about that and more. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
News Talk STL.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
No paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
All right, so you heard Vic talking about Patriot HVAC, Patriot Heating and Cooling. They are sponsoring Vic for Vets and also sponsoring the Allman Report. And Craig, those guys are really great. Sean and his partner came out to the house the other day because my bottom air conditioning was not working. And, man, they figured it out. They did some sleuthing. I mean, it was like Columbo, HVAC Columbo, and they did some sleuthing and found this little part. But the little part played a big role in how my air conditioning worked, and they had one in the truck. They had one ready to rock and roll for me in the truck. And so by the time they left, basically a half hour later, my air conditioning was back on, and it was a great price that you're going to get to at Patriot Heating and Cooling. Let me tell you something. Craig has been in the business a long, long time. Customer service is absolute king. It's absolutely vital. Also, expertise. These guys know all the ins and outs from all their years in the heating and cooling business. And so you can count on them 24/7 because you can call them anytime and they've got 24/7 help for you. And that'll come in handy when it's still 95 degrees at 11 o'clock at night and your air conditioner goes out. And, we all know how that goes. It used to be in the old days when it was too hot and there was no air conditioning. People slept in the parks, but you're not going to be doing that. We know. Call Patriot HVAC STL.com. Call Patriot HVAC STL.com. Proud supporters of our vets and free, common sense, conservative radio.
Success. It's discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best in each of us, made better by the best in all of us. Whatever success looks like to you, Stifel is invested in yours. That's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. So whether you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Company, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
What's going on, man? They didn't have my theme. Just heard that promo and I wasn't even in it. Like, what's going on here?
Stell's out. He usually does all the heavy
I know.
lifting
I'm
for
just
me.
saying. Yeah, I think there was a show missing in that little promo there.
Oh. I think that was intentional.
I know, dude. I know. They're just messing with me. I get it. Here to stay. That's how it goes. All right. So did you see that story? I mean, sometimes I see the post online, right? And do you ever see it? You ever bother with it?
Here's a funny roundabout way is I see occasionally when I visit the cesspool that is Reddit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then someone may post something they used to kind of like either archive.
Yeah.
send it to archive.org and then post the archived version because of the paywall.
Yeah.
But then there was a lady who worked for them who would come in there and start snipping at people and in the comments about you need to pay for people's hard work and stuff. And I find it pretty amazing that you said, did you see in the paper? I mean, now granted, I grew up like that too.
I know.
Did you see it? Like, if I said that to my son, he'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because Reddit is, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit before I get that, since you mentioned Reddit. Reddit is really, I mean, it's worse than X, because Reddit is populated by really mean ass people. Like, I mean, it's worse than X is.
It's fueling the dead internet theory, because like Reddit and like my YouTube feed, if I go to somewhere where I'm not logged in on a different device and I see what the normies see, I'm like, is this what YouTube puts on the front page? Like, because I didn't know what Mr. Beast was for the longest time. I didn't even, and cause I don't see that. So it's not in my not in my algorithm. And Reddit was like that. Like, and so every once in a while I got into an argument with a dude and I said, where do you get your news? That's usually what I go, where do you get your news? Where are you hearing this crap?
Yeah.
Reddit. And so I looked at Reddit unlogged in out of my account to see what the front page and then, on Reddit, you can click people's names and you could see what they've posted.
Yeah. But I mean, is it really their names or
their usernames?
Yeah, usernames.
So you can click and you can see what their history is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I see something, it's some AOC crap.
Yeah.
I click it and then I'm like, I look at and I click the person's name. They have an account that is 2 months old. Everything they've ever posted is AOC propaganda.
Yep.
They have 5 or 6 posts, 10 bajillion comments.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, because this leads into something, I think if you sliced away a majority of the hidden identities in this country, the world would be a better place. Like, for instance, if you were in a situation where everybody had to be accountable, like with their name attached to it, this world would be a much different place.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I feel I used to have a strong, the internet, we should have never had the social aspect. But I agree. Maybe we could have divided it. We could have kept the information, encyclopedia nature of things. And even and I was thinking, well, what about if you were a creator who is creating something that's either knowledge or opinion or whatever? That doesn't mean, just because in one area you have a community around that doesn't mean you could come over here and have a community around this. I don't want a community.
Yeah.
I don't want your opinion. I don't want you to chime in. I'm either adding to the zeitgeist or taking from it, but I didn't ask you.
I just think if you're using a fake name, and there are people who will use the excuse that, well, it might affect my job, whatever. But it's like, if you're really proud and you're really proud of what you stand for, and you really have credibility and you really have something to say that you can stand by, then you ought to put your name to it instead of hiding behind. Because you'll notice the meanest, nastiest a-holes on the internet don't have their name attached to their accounts. They are fake names, fake accounts, whatever. And so they hide behind that. And it's just, it's cowardice. It's not unlike, I know, because now the big deal is, well, they should why are the ICE people masked? And what's so interesting about that is you might say, well, Allman, you want everybody to be identified. Why wouldn't you want the ICE people to be identified? Because they're actually being doxxed and people are going after them and possibly and threatening their families, tracing down their children on the internet and everything else. And it's interesting how the media and everybody else is like, how come ICE is wearing masks? And they never once asked, why do the Black Lives Matter people and Antifa all wear masks?
Why is it racist when Philly bans the shiesty? You know what a shiesty is, right? The ski mask.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the tight fitting black. It's called the it's on the streets called the shiesty.
Oh wow.
So
why is that?
It comes from a rapper Pooh Shiesty. We're not gonna go down the rabbit hole. Like, see, I know a lot of things. I just choose not to let you know my power level.
I got you, brother. I got you.
So Philly tried to ban that, and they just screamed up and down that it was racist. And I mean, I remember when it started happening during COVID. And I would start to clutch my hip immediately. And they'd be like, I got to give this gentleman I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. When normally, if you're approaching me in a ski mask, we're about to have a problem.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. So these guys, Hakeem Jeffries is among them. They want to ban. They want to unmask ICE agents, and it's really weird how ICE agents are enforcing the law and trying to protect themselves, and Antifa and Black Lives Matter were breaking the law, and they never bothered to ask why their faces were always covered. And so, and it's because they're cowards. There's no reason why somebody in Antifa would wear a mask, because no one's going to dox them. But people who hide behind masks are always up to something. But if you are an ICE agent and you are wearing a mask, you're doing it because it's already a matter of fact that you have been docked, threatened, and everything else.
The mask doesn't help. Remember the UC Davis professor bike lock guy?
Oh yeah.
But he was wearing a mask and they still found him.
Yeah, right. Here's Hakeem Jeffries because all the Democrat politicians are on a crusade to unmask the ICE agents. And the only reason they're doing that is because they don't agree with what the ICE agents are doing. And it's funny how these are the same guys who said that me and you are a bunch of law enforcement hating individuals because we stood up for some of the January 6th demonstrators. These guys don't have any kind of core. There's no rudder whatsoever. They will just go into whatever stream they want to and forget that the other part of the stream still exists. And so it's like this supposedly pro law enforcement. You heard Tim Walz bragging about how pro law enforcement he was and anti law enforcement we were because of some of the not really giving credit to some of the thuggish behavior of the Capitol Police, who, by the way, should not be existing in their current form because there's no accountability for them whatsoever. You can't file a Freedom of Information Act against to find out more about the Capitol Police. So it's basically an SS troop for the legislature, and one of them murdered Ashley Babbitt, and that's the way I feel about it. But I'm not anti-law enforcement. But still, these guys, though, the same people bragging about how they stood up for law enforcement and the January 6th committee and all this kind of stuff are now calling for the unmasking of ICE.
Single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will, of course, be identified. That, in fact, is the law.
Okay, good. Well, so then we'll ban all masks for all people, right? Including pro-Hamas demonstrators who Hakeem Jeffries hasn't asked any of them to ever be unmasked. He hasn't asked Antifa or Black Lives Matter to ever be unmasked. So I guess if all is fair, but, even still, I say unmask all those people and keep the masks on ICE. You notice they don't call them law enforcement agents, right? They just call them ICE.
It's a common practice in law enforcement for especially undercover work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is unbelievable. And anyway, I want to get to the other side of this because I want to talk about that St. Charles Convention Center story. We kind of got off on a tangent about the Post-Dispatch, but this story is very interesting because apparently there isn't enough parking around or in the St. Charles Convention Center. And so people are parking on the streets. But there's something about this story that kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense and also prompted more questions. And I'll talk about that on the other side of this. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here, Johnny over there. And on this little rainy Wednesday afternoon, my veggies are loving it, but that's about it.
This This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really so happy that Harry Parker is back with the Allman brand. Harry Parker of Gulf Shores Restaurant and Grill. Man, we're going back now. 20 years? Oh, my Lord. Absolutely. That I've known Harry Parker. And that's when he had only one restaurant. And that was right there, the original location right there on Olive. Now he has 3. St. Peter's, beautiful location right there, and of course in Edwardsville. And Harry has brought the taste of New Orleans as originated with his family from New Orleans to St. Louis. And man, it is going gangbusters. It is so much fun to go there. The food portions are outstanding. You've got to try the mahi-mahi tacos, and you've got to try the artichoke dip. You've got to try the clams, and on down the line, the way they blacken, season these beautiful cuts of fish, tuna, salmon, and the redfish. It's just incredible. And it's and they've got the aquariums in there where you can see all these beautiful tropical fish, and the music. Pennsylvania Slim is still playing there. Just a great vibe. And he also has the mobile unit. He's got a food truck. And so if you want to go to Gulf Shores Restaurant and Grill.com and you've got something going this summer or even towards autumn or even in the fall, whatever, Harry Parker's food truck will be an absolute total gas for you, and it'll liven up the party in a big, gigantic way. So check it out. Gulf Shores Restaurant and Grill.com. I'm so proud to have Harry back in the fold with the Allman brand and Common Sense Radio. Gulf Shores Restaurant and Grill.com.
Hey, Tim Jones here. For 50 years, St. Louis homeowners have trusted one name with their outdoor dreams, Hydro Dynamics. From custom irrigation systems to stunning outdoor lighting, from expert drainage solutions to beautiful hardscapes, they transform ordinary yards into extraordinary dreamscapes. With certified experts that work with you to bring your vision to life, delivering unparalleled service every step of the way. Ready to make your dreamscape a reality? Visit hydrodynamicscore.com. That's hydrodynamicscore.com.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
So a day like today, it's not likely that you're going to have basement problems. But man, even on a light rainy day like today, there are some people who are still fretting it. You might be at work right now listening to the Allman Report and seeing kind of the rainy weather and thinking, golly, I wonder if my basement's okay. I wonder if the carpet's okay down there. I know I heard him talking about Woods Basement Systems before, but I never called them. Shoot. Well, you know what? You can do it. You can catch up and make sure that the rest of the summer and into the autumn and everything else is good for you and for your basements. JamieLovesWoods.com. I have been a customer 2 different times with 2 different homes of Woods Basement Systems. You go to their Google reviews and you'll see, like I experienced, the fact that they are absolutely amazing at what they do. Foundation repair, waterproofing, any leaks, any cracks, they can fill and they will take care of. As you know, I do real estate and I go into a lot of homes. And I got to tell you, one of the things, if you're even thinking about the value of your home or selling your home, people can love so much about the house and they go down in the basement and there are signs of water, and that is a deal killer. Probably the most prominent, prolific deal killer on the planet is a basement that leaks. It's just the reality, and people freak out about it. And you just want to make sure that you have peace of mind and also secure the value of that home. JamieLovesWoods.com. JamieLovesWoods.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Is Trump frustrated with Justice Amy Coney Barrett? Zach Smith of the Heritage Foundation will explain how this will affect the Supreme Court at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here. Happy to be with you. Johnny over there. And this is a Wednesday. Probably nice to have a little bit of the rain. My garden loves it. Damn, something's, you know what? Let me tell you something. I was bragging about this the other day because everything else has gone uneaten by the animals. I have it all protected, but one of them got in there. Might have been a bird or something. One of my greatest additions to the garden was the growth of my Melrose peppers. These are prized peppers in Chicago. Whenever you get a roast beef sandwich or something like that and you get peppers on it, those are Melrose peppers.
Oh, I've got some sweet.
Yeah.
I've got a few going. Mine are raised.
Yeah.
And I've got some rabbits. So I've gone out there. My cats like to watch them, but I've gone out there and thrown the carrots that were going bad and some spinach that was going bad. Those bastards didn't even touch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
I don't get it.
I'm gonna spray some piss on them again. That's the only thing that helped last time. The animal stuff. You buy urine and you spray it. Not coyote urine because you don't want to. Because I've got coyotes in my neighborhood, but the other kind of urine, and you spray it on them. That'll keep the animals away. But still. For whatever reason, they decided to zero in on my Melrose peppers, nothing else. And I'm not happy about it. So I'm going to have to figure something else out because all they do, I don't even know how they're doing it. They're just snipping off all the little tops and stuff. It's driving me crazy. So anyway.
Maybe you should. Didn't you say you had a Carolina Reaper or something?
I do, a pepper. Uh-huh. They don't touch those, though.
Yeah.
But I've got a fence around that stuff, so I do have a Carolina Reaper.
I think if you surrounded your other ones with that, like kind of built a little barrier and they took a little nibble at that, they might change their mind.
Yeah, I know. Because they know what is good and what isn't.
Because they don't. Yeah, I'm waiting on my harvest of banana peppers. It was terrible.
Oh yeah,
it was terrible last year. The plant didn't yield much.
Mine didn't either. Some people were conspiracy theorists, and maybe not so. We're convinced it was something like in the soil or whatever. Because this year,
well, it's what you bought. It's probably where we got the starters.
Yeah,
where that went down the genetic line. My girl's been growing potatoes the past couple years, though.
Oh yeah,
they're kind of a pain a little bit, but it's like when you grow strawberries, they're nowhere near as big as this GMO.
Yeah,
ridiculously.
Yeah, no.
Lab created stuff we get, but I mean, she grew some new potatoes last year. They were fantastic.
Nice.
You could they were tiny. It took a lot to make some potato salad, but they were fantastic.
That sounds good, man. I love the gardening part of it, and it's always fun. It's always a miracle to me, man. It's really anytime. I'm not pushing this on you, Johnny. I'm just saying, if you ever doubt the existence of God, you just have to look at babies, the sky at night, and
I'm a fisherman,
dude,
so I marvel at a fish. Sometimes. I'm like, look at this dinosaur. I'm like, look at this.
I know. I mean, there's, and again, I'm not trying to, but I am. Yes, I am trying to preach. All I'm saying is that none of this. It's impossible for this all to just naturally appear out of nowhere, including our brains, the human brain, and everything else. And so. I'm just telling you, I always am just amazed at how things grow, and golly, it really is. And plus, it's the only place that we know of that has this. And there are a bunch of other planets that don't even do that. I mean, how does that happen? They're like all ripped off. They're like all jealous of us and everything now.
Sometimes you like when you get like this, it gets to like one of those half-baked stoner conversations.
I know.
Where you've gone so far down, you're like, man, they don't even have plants on other planets.
I know.
Man.
Yeah, because I'm ate up probably anyway, so from my old days. But yeah, I mean, well, even if you still, even when you see like even stories in the Bible, or you look at people who've talked about the stars, even poems or writing about them, and you realize, you're like, damn, man, they saw the exact, like when you look at Copernicus and all these people who mapped out the stars and everything else, and you're thinking Galileo and everything, and you're thinking, damn, they saw this exact same thing I'm seeing right now.
Except it was over there.
Yeah,
that's
right.
But I've had the same thought. Yeah, it makes you feel tiny, and I think you really should.
Yeah,
you really should reflect on that.
Yeah, and I'm just glad I kind of wasn't here when during the plate tectonic shifts. Like when North America separated from there. I'm glad I wasn't like, just my luck, I'd be like standing on it as it's separating.
Like apocalypto time. Like when they're like, no rain, we're gonna kill some virgins. Sorry.
Yeah. Like it would be a bummer to be around at the same time dinosaurs were around. Can you imagine that? I mean, half the time, people are like worried about getting bit by snakes. Imagine if you were like always on the lookout for some brontosaurus or something, or some pterodactyl flying out of the air at you, It'd be crazy. Are we high? Did you slip something in my did you just put something in my
Did you have some of those brownies I left out there?
I guess. No, it is cool. Dude, I was freaking out the other day. So I have to fly out on Friday, and realized a while back that I didn't have my real ID. So I don't have a real ID. So I said, oh, but I have a passport. So a passport's cool to use in place of real ID, I think, which started on May 7th. I still don't understand all that. And I kind of resent the fact that regular Americans have to have real ID because of a bunch of blood poisoning foreigners who abuse the system. I don't understand why we're doing that real ID thing.
I've refused up to this point, and my license expires on my birthday this year. Still on the fence if I'm going to do it, just because I actually went to do it. I have a laminated Social Security card. That's a no-no. Do you know that?
No, you can't laminate them.
My Social Security card is considered vandal, or what do they call it?
Tampered.
Defaced.
Oh.
It has been defaced, is what she said to me. And I looked at her, I said, lady, I'm almost 50 years old. How do you think I've kept this piece of paper my entire life? It's because my mother had the foresight to laminate it for me.
That's such bull crap, man. Golly.
So, and I didn't have a W-2 on me. I had my Social Security card and everything else. So that was years ago when I renewed my license, and I stomped out of the DMV. One of the most pissed I've ever been. And if you've ever been to the DMV, you know it's a exercise in futility.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I got my license. And if you see the current picture on my license, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Like when you see, I'm mad.
I was in a situation where, so I had my passport, but then yesterday, sometimes I freak out because I'm the kind of guy that will leave the house like, God, did I turn off then I'm thinking to myself, I'm way far away from my backpack that has my my passport in it. In fact, I'm like on a treadmill, and I just get on it, and it dawns on me, oh crap, I hope my passport isn't expired. And I'm thinking about it. So I'm on the treadmill for like 3 minutes, and I get off of it, get dressed, and just leave the gym and go out to my backpack and look around. And, oh yeah, good. It's 2028. So yeah. But I was freaking out because
that's the worst thing that could happen to you, is if that was what you were depending on and you had to get a new one. I don't think you could. You're leaving Friday. There's
no way.
Nope.
Yeah, I would have had to tell my son. It's like, you
better call Amtrak.
Yeah. I'm but I still think the whole real ID thing is ridiculous. You just mentioned, it's funny you mentioned Amtrak, because for some reason I really couldn't get to sleep last night. So I was I was wondering, like, how much is it for like a Greyhound bus ride to like San Antonio?
You were doing worst case scenario. Like if you can't get on the plane, you were like, well, what if I?
Well, I was just like thinking about traveling. I'm thinking, I wonder what it'd be like to be on a bus for 20 hours, whatever. And it's like $140. to go from here to San Antonio on a Greyhound.
I don't think we have the mega bus here, but my mom used to take the mega bus around Texas
Oh, yeah.
to get around,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I'm like, what? No.
Megabus is pretty good, and I used to do that a version of it in college. And then also they have the then I looked up Amtrak, and first of all, I'm thinking Amtrak is interesting because it's still around.
You can get to Chicago for like $50, can't you?
Yeah, but you can. And I did the same thing to San Antonio, and you could go like it's $566 to get their little bed compartment thing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I was thinking, man, you must really want to get away because obviously you could fly to San Antonio for a lot less than that, right? But I was thinking, man, it would be kind of cool.
Was that round trip or was that 500 something was the one way?
It was one way.
With the, yeah, it's a little high.
Yeah.
That's a little high.
But then I was thinking, if you just wanted to kind of get away and just escape from the world for a little bit, and you take a 20-hour train ride and you've got the big picture window, you got a bed in there, bathroom, you've got, or you can order food. I'm thinking,
I'm about the journey, man.
I know. I think that would be so much. It would be kind of cool to just to kind of figure out what that was like, someday. But that would, of course, require me not to have any children, or when I have 5 of them. So, what I'm saying is, it would just be kind of like someday, who knows, be one of those old dudes, taking the. I'm gonna go. I've never been on a cruise, which I kind of would like to do, but I hear you got to go on the right one.
I'm not good on an ocean liner boat. On an ocean boat, I'll throw up.
You think?
No, I know for a fact. I have no sea legs.
Yeah. All right, people. So you've by now heard about the big controversy in St. Charles, and it's over the convention center parking. And again, I'll get to a few of those nuggets for you because really, in the end, it seems like basically a simple problem. And easily remedied. And it seems like there are a lot of people pointing fingers, but I have a feeling there are a few people who are a little more responsible for what's going on than they might let up on. So I'm going to do that. And also Eric Swalwell talking about the fact that he hears from his guys at the gym. Because can you imagine these guys in the house and all spotting each other? You know what I mean? Come on, dudes. Gee whiz. I realize maybe some of you do the spotting thing, but yeah. Whatever. But anyway, he's got some stories though, because apparently he talks to his gym mates while he's spotting them. Have that for you. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Number 1 for live and local
Conservative talk.
Every day, something new.
news, analysis, opinion.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada.
So much bias. The first 100 days, it's been a breath of fresh air.
The border.
The change is undeniable.
We have an opportunity to help turn the page on the Biden economy and set up our country for long-term economic strength.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number 1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Jeffco,
Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love learning about national and international issues here on News Talk STL. But do you know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your city, your county, and its politics? If you live in Jefferson County and want to know more about what's happening locally, join Speaker Tim Jones and me, Councilman Billy Crow, as we dive into all things Jefferson County on Sundays at high noon on Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The Congressional Budget Office releasing its analysis of President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. If passed, the bill would cut taxes by $3.75 trillion, but increase projected deficits by $2.4 trillion. In a news conference, House Speaker Mike Johnson says the president's tax bill must pass so that all Americans can benefit.
All the things that are in this bill are so important for the U.S. economy. It's going to be jet fuel for the U.S. economy. All boats are going to rise. And the sooner we do that, the better. And the risk of not getting it done is enormous, not just for the Republican Party, but for the country.
The CBO analysis comes as the president has set a deadline for the final product to reach his desk by July 4th for signature. President Trump said Russian President Putin told him very strongly in a phone call that he will respond to Ukraine's weekend drone attack on Russian airfields. The president said in a social media post it was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. The two also discussed Iran's nuclear program. The phone call lasting a little more than an hour. Also at townhall.com, Canadian wildfire smoke causes very unhealthy conditions for some parts of the U.S. and reaches Europe.
Air quality alerts in effect for parts of the country being hit by smoke from the Canadian wildfires. National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Chenard says,
again, it's kind of back west, a little bit closer to the source of the fires. So we're talking more like Iowa up into the UP of Michigan, and then the eastern U.S., really anywhere from Georgia to New England, will have some impact.
Canada is having another bad wildfire season, and more than 27,000 people in 3 provinces have been forced to evacuate. I'm Julie Walker.
The Dow up 57 points. Now the NASDAQ Composite adding 82. More at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia. I got a tour of their headquarters. I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Tracking showers and thunderstorms into the afternoon. There's a very narrow window where a few of these storms could be strong, maybe even reaching severe limits. But wind would be the primary risks with any of these storms. That window quickly ends by the evening, transitioning to just showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures staying near 78 degrees, cloudy overhead, falling to the 60s overnight. Some rain possible on Thursday, tracking rain chances into the weekend. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Attention all gun enthusiasts. Don't miss the big St. Louis County Gun Show, June 20th through 22nd at the STL Athletic Center in Fenton. Over 450 tables of pistols, handguns, rifles, log guns, shotguns, ammo, and more. The fun starts Friday, June 20th at 4, continues all weekend. Admission $14 and good for the entire weekend. Kids 12 and under get in free. With discounts for veterans, first responders, and anyone that mentions Aaron sent me. The big St. Louis County Gun Show, the weekend of June 20th. More info at bkpromotions.us.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet. I'll bring my 500 cousins. This will be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Spring is in the air, and so are the savings at Johnson Heating and Cooling. Let our family take care of your family's heating and cooling needs. Right now through May 15th, get a complete air conditioning checkup for just $99. Fully licensed and insured with free estimates, and we service all brands. Comfort meets affordability. That's the Johnson Heating and Cooling promise. Call 636-332-4141 or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere, and we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery in St. Peters, St. Charles, Lake St. Louis on Pond Fort Trail, and the original Stefanita's in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Check us out at Steph'sPizza.com. Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy. This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Gemini Wealth Group, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Portman and the team ready to help you out. And you know what? The reality, this is kind of a good reality, but it can go both ways. So you, those of you who are retiring, you're going to probably live another 20, 30, even 40 years because things are so cool these days and modern. And the problem with that, though, is that if you're not well put together financially in terms of your retirement plan, what you plan to do, how you plan to use it, your liabilities when it comes to taxes or health care or just things like that or housing, then you're going to wind up kind of scraping the car ashtray for pennies, and you don't want to be doing that. So here's what you do, people. You go ahead and get a hold of the GeminiWealthGroup.com, the GeminiWealthGroup.com, and Jeff Portman directly at 314-888-0123, 314-888-0123. And that is where you can absolutely, totally, and completely find peace of mind when it comes to your retirement. If you are just about to retire, or if you are recently retired but not too sure about the people you're hanging with right now in terms of your retirement plan, then make sure you get a hold of Gemini Wealth Group, and they can right the ship for you in terms of diversification, in terms of long-term planning, in terms of all those things that you will need to have a comfortable retirement and a happy one. The GeminiWealthGroup.com, the GeminiWealthGroup.com. Call Jeff Portman directly at 314-888-0123.
This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by Proctor Drapery Blinds and Shutters. Proctor, spelled like doctor. ProctorDrapery.com. This is News Talk STL at 1019 991 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
Yes, indeed, everybody. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here, super happy to be with you. And if you have any interest in feedback on what I'm about to talk about regarding the St. Charles Convention Center, so here's the deal: the Post-Dispatch does a story, and I mean it was a thorough one. It was not a bad story. But I did miss a few things because I'd like to know a few things about really what's going on there. So the bottom line is the St. Charles Convention Center has a parking problem, and there are not enough parking spaces to fill some of the overflow people. And the St. Charles Convention Center has been there a long time. What has not been there since the building of the St. Charles Convention Center are some homes. So used to be, if there was spillover, people would go and park in neighborhoods or places that were not yet built up, but were, kind of had a few houses here and there. Well, now, of course, with the building boom in St. Charles, there are a lot more neighborhoods on places where some of the overflow parking used to be. So people now are getting in trouble for parking in neighborhoods. But the fact of the matter is you can park on a neighborhood street unless it's a private gated community or something, but it's all a public street. So now the St. Charles police are thinking, well, what are we going to have to do here? We got to figure out how to manage this because people are parking in front of people's driveways and even mailboxes for that matter. And the real problem is that you ought to be ticketed for that. I mean, you're parking in front of somebody's driveway, whatever. But whether or not they can actually ticket somebody for parking on a residential street is another story. And I think they're in kind of a conundrum here. And really what it boils down to is the behavior of some of the people parking on these streets. It's really not the convention center screwing up. And in many cases, it's not even the people who are overflow parking in the neighborhoods. It's idiots and self-important a-holes and self-involved people like the people who go to these, okay, I don't want to offend anybody, but you know what? I guess I don't care. These dumb little anime festivals where everybody dresses up in their costumes and dresses up like a fox or a freaking sheep or something.
Group you were going to slight, but okay.
Well, they're the ones who are misbehaving. Who'd you think I was going to slight?
I don't know. That's why I was like, "Oh, that was I was on
no
on the edge of my seat."
Because a woman is like telling the Post-Dispatch, it's like I'm looking out my window and there's some dude in his underwear changing into a furry costume, and I'm like, well, if you guys didn't act like that. And didn't behave that way, you wouldn't be drawing attention to a problem because it hasn't been a problem up until the time all the furries started running amok in these neighborhoods. Now, keep in mind, there are some people, I think, who are tending to kind of have parties or something, like they go out and then they sit outside their cars and drink. But that's a behavior problem.
It makes sense now because I was wondering where you were going. I've been to that convention center for work. I had to pull up and drop equipment off. That parking lot was a nightmare. And, and it's really not that big. It's like it's treated like the back door of the hotel.
Oh yeah,
kind of. It's really a strange setup.
Yeah.
So when I heard you talking, I'm like, where is he going with this?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure I've come close to parking back, and then there's houses right there.
Yeah.
And maybe it goes to be said because when I worked over in the Gold Tower years ago, we had to explain to some people what bronies were because they had you know what a brony is? A male fan of My Little Pony?
Yeah.
So they had the brony convention over there.
Oh, Lord.
And I think, after they traipsed around the chalet too many times, we never saw bronies again over there. They probably told them to take their money elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's really, I'm sorry, but there's
don't have to
really no excuse for being a grown ass man and having an obsession with My Little Pony. There really isn't. I mean, I'm serious. There's a lot of things that I can probably look past, but you have no excuse at that level. You really don't.
No, it's perversion and degeneracy.
Yeah, it's so, here's the thing. I have, and by the way, you guys, somebody's on the feed complaining that I'm not interactive enough on the chat box. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing a radio show right now. So I'm not quite sure how I can be interactive on the chat box when I'm doing a radio show. I really don't understand that.
Have you ever seen the streams like that the Zoomers watch? Like that the host is usually yelling at the chat. If you will,
you mean interactive with the chat? No, they were complaining I wasn't typing into the chat box. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I don't know. I mean, I refer a lot to the people on Facebook, who make comments, and I appreciate those, but I can't really type in the chat box.
Somebody's got to get neglected around here.
I know, and this guy's great. I know I don't know who he is, but 101 straight up, you're the best, and thank you for listening to me for all these years, and I owe you, man. So I'll figure out a way. I'll tell you one thing. Once they AI me, yeah, right. I can have a Allman thing. Man, you wouldn't believe what Jim Modulin did the other day. It was
Did he clone you?
He did.
Scary, isn't it?
Dude, I mean, it was super scary.
What did he make? What did he make you say?
Can
you repeat it?
We were doing something for Gulf Shores and just kind of a practice run ad or whatever. And so he managed to take I guess the rhythm of how I speak, because I do. Everybody has a distinct way of doing
Cadence.
their ads and cadence, whatever.
Works.
And he picked up on that. And then so Joey is playing this Gulf Shores Restaurant and Grill ad that was kind of a place setter because I hadn't recorded it yet. And Joey's playing it. I go, that's me. I was like, no, that's Jim. I go, no, that's me. And Joey's like, no, that's Jim being you. And I'm like, dag. I couldn't, I mean,
that was a Kanye conspiracy. They said some of the Kanye music is not him, it's someone else doing it through the Kanye AI. And have you seen the fake AI news?
Oh yeah.
It's getting to the point where it's undetectable.
Yeah. Well, people are starting to get caught up in it because I don't think you can really do I don't think you can really do like a radio show like this through an AI person, but they are doing, like iHeart did one where they revealed after 7 months that one of their DJs was just
I saw that story.
AI.
Yeah, and he was popular.
Yeah.
Popular as hell.
Yeah, right. Because there's only so much you're saying, but I don't think you can really. But maybe that's just wishful thinking, man. And then Ken played me a Mike Lindell commercial that sounded like Mike Lindell, but it was Jim who adapted the Mike Lindell tone of voice and everything else, and it sounded exactly like Mike Lindell. And Jim is very talented anyway, so he's got, he's a man of great, immense talent. So I don't think just anybody could do that, but man, that was crazy. Anyway, back to, I don't know even how we started. Oh, because of the chats. Anyway, sorry, 101 straight up. I'm trying to be, that way. But anyway, there's really, so the behavior, the brony thing, honestly, you're mentally ill. And I don't care who you are, whatever, but you've got mental problems. So anyway, so I think the problem really boils down to, it's really not the parking. I mean, it is obviously there needs to be more parking, whatever. There is a buildup more of residential property in that area since the time the convention center was created. So of course it's kind of like, it's like people complain about deer in their backyard. You're like, well, who was here first? Well, the deer, most likely. And you complain about people parking on your street. Well, guess what? You moved into a neighborhood next to the convention center. So, but there's another way of looking at this too. I'm not saying that those people are to blame or they deserve to be abused on their street. I'm just saying you got to realize you bought a house near the convention center and you never know what's going to happen. But nonetheless, though, I'm not blaming them as much as I am the people and their behavior, their behavior in those neighborhoods. And that's really what the problem is. I mean, how many of you people would literally, like after an event, park in front of, be in somebody's front of somebody else and just sit there and drink beer in front of somebody's house?
That's a concert parking lot vibe. And I think that leads to how they, how I said they probably sent the bronies down the road to go somewhere else. That says to the kind of events you're taking there.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think as an event coordinator, wouldn't you say, well, the kind of crowd that this is going to bring.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you change that a little bit. Maybe you have more gun shows and more boat shows and more home shows and fewer furry conventions.
I mean, you can still have it. Take it somewhere else where it's, like a.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
We'll put you into a rocket and shoot you up into space, and you can have all the fun you want up there.
How about so clearly they don't want to do it in downtown St. Louis because that would be dangerous for the furries to hang around the parking lot.
Well, believe me, I doubt that many people in the neighborhoods around downtown St. Louis would be very happy to see some fat, hairy, pasty white dude in his underwear changing into a fox costume. That wouldn't go over very well.
Thanks for the visual.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's what that woman saw. And so, sometimes it would just be nice if people just behaved civilly. And, you could park on a street, but once you start causing problems, you're ruining it for everybody. I mean, once you start disrobing in front of somebody's house so you could change into your dumb costume, or once you start, breaking out the Southern Comfort and sitting on the bumper of your car in front of somebody's house at 11 o'clock at night, then you're ruining it for everybody. So sometimes the solutions are really easier than people might think that they are. By the way, check this out. This is amazing. So you all know that one of the reasons why a lot of children in schools are not reading George Orwell's 1984. You know why, right? Because if kids read that book in school, and I think some of them are reading it, but a lot of them are not. But if some of these teachers, some of these NEA mobsters know exactly what will happen when the kids start reading George Orwell's 1984. They'll start reading it, and they'll be like, this sounds like now. Yeah, this sounds like our life now. This sounds like how the media is now. This sounds like how the government is now. And they'll start to recognize exactly what George Orwell was warning about. And to me, the reason why 1984 isn't taught in schools or isn't assigned in schools, isn't on the syllabus, is probably because they want to keep kids from cracking the code and knowing exactly what's happening and recognizing the world that George Orwell said was coming in 1984, but is here in 2025. So what's crazy about this is there's a new anniversary edition of George Orwell's 1984 been released. And guess what? It includes a trigger warning in the introduction that was written by an American professor. Can you believe that there is a trigger warning on George Orwell's 1984? And the irony of that is nothing short of incredible. And of course, you know what trigger warnings are. They're basically came out of liberal academia and want to make sure that a mentally fragile human being is not bothered or traumatized by what's in it. But the idea that there could be a trigger warning, because that's exactly really what's going to happen, is that kids are going to be not triggered, but a switch will go off. They'll be switchered. A switch will go off when they're reading 1984, and they'll realize what George Orwell described is actually the life we're living now. And that really is incredible. But the fact that there is a warning on it, and it has a trigger warning that says the novel's hero is problematic because of his misogyny.
Oh, that's it? Just a little misogyny?
Unbelievable.
That's it?
Yeah. But George Orwell predicted all this.
And that is, I think that's truly irony, right? That's not
absolutely. That's real
irony.
That's irony. That's actually crazy because it's irony that a professor doesn't even recognize. Like they don't even understand. They don't even know how ironic that is and how crazy it is. So that's the new edition. But I'm telling you, that's why they're not teaching it, because kids will then know everything about what adults have been up to. I
had to tell my son to read it on his own.
Yeah.
And then we talked about why they don't teach finances in school is because they want you dumb and broke and in debt.
Yep. Not even home ec. Not even home ec. And you know what? Animal Farm's another good one that should be read as well.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I said to that one early in the game. He probably didn't get it.
Fahrenheit 451. Yeah, those are all very, very prescient novels. All right. The great Rick Pogue is on the way. This is Common Sense Radio, News Talk STL.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy. This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about Clayton Sleep, ClaytonSleep.com. And man, sometimes people don't really talk about this because it's not something you bring up. And you don't want to feel like you're complaining about your spouse or that kind of thing. But I think if you were in a group of people and you talked about your partner snoring and you talked about, you'd realize there are a lot of people who are actually even sleeping in separate bedrooms because of the snoring problems or the restlessness of sleep and all that kind of thing. And really, that's no way to live either, right? You really not want to sleep in the same bed as your wife or husband because they snore or because there's this or that. I mean, that's really disruptive and sometimes really hard to do for some people. So Dr. Joe Ojal, who's been a longtime friend of mine, a great guy, is there to go ahead and resolve those sleep problems once and for all. Sleep apnea, that's what snoring is. They can do the take-home apparatus, or they can bring you into the clinics, which are really well put together. It's almost like a boutique hotel. And they just monitor you all night. Professionals who are overnight monitor you and absolutely just totally and completely can fix your problems once and for all. Sometimes people have it all. They've got the snoring. They've got restless leg syndrome. They can't get to sleep. They've got insomnia, whatever. And those things can be helped. And Dr. Ojal has been doing this for a long time. He travels around the world talking to people and other sleep doctors and teaching them the keys to helping other people. And he can help you too. If you've got kids, grandkids, 2 years old, can't get to sleep, can't put them to bed, he has a pediatric sleep program for you as well. Check it out on the web. It's ClaytonSleep.com, ClaytonSleep.com.
Success. It's discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best in each of us, made better by the best in all of us. Whatever success looks like to you, Stifel is invested in yours. That's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. So whether you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Parents want more choices rather than fewer when it comes to their children's education. And now some Missouri parents will have one more option to get their children the best education available. Low-income students and those with disabilities in Missouri's largest communities can now apply for an Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA. With an ESA, the money the state would normally pay to your child's public school goes into an account that you control. You can use the funds for private school tuition, online learning programs, a private tutor, or other approved uses. You can tailor your child's education. For too long, Missouri officials have operated on the mistaken notion that parents only need one choice. They're assigned public school based on their address. ESAs put parents in charge. It's school choice at its best, with money following the students to the place that best fits their needs. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. This Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
This is News Talk STL at 1019 991 HD3.
Good afternoon, everyone.
NewsTalkSTL.com.
Sorry, Jim. Oh, I did that. Very unprofessional. Yeah. Who does that?
Yeah, we call it stepping on it. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm new. I hope people don't. I just came This started.
It's like day 3, right? It's only Wednesday. It's third day, your first week.
Started in this business. How am I supposed to know that kind of stuff? I just figure, I didn't even hear Jim. What's wrong with me? I don't know. I was thinking about something else. I don't know whatever that was. Sorry, Mr. Big Balls Jim. Modulin, Big Balls voice, we call him. Yeah. Anyway, hey, is Eric Swalwell like one of the most annoying people on the planet? You almost feel sorry for him because you don't hate him because he's not really like one of those guys you want to hate. I don't hate anybody, but he's one of those guys who, like, in school, you remember guys like him in high school. Anyway, Swalwell is on Charlemagne's show, and I remember when I was with iHeart, I kind of still do work for them, but somebody got on me because supposedly it's Charlemagne the God.
I believe it's the God.
The God, whatever. And I said on the air, and Charlemagne is an iHeart employee. So I said on the air, I refuse to, I don't call anybody God but God. So, and won't ever use a God word to describe anybody, especially in a formal name. Like if you say he's a music god or something like that. But I'm not some dude who calls himself the God is not going to be called that by me. And they got all up in my butt about it. And, well, he's disrespectful to your fellow colleagues. And, I'm like, yeah, but I don't call anybody God. Sorry. Especially
he's
people
disrespectful to most of his guests.
Yeah. Especially but somebody who names himself God. That's not happening. So anyway, I got in trouble for it, but I still didn't do it. I think they just had to say that, and that's it. But anyway, Eric Swalwell goes on his show for some reason and talks about how his GOP gym buds talk to him while they're working out. Because you see, it's a private house gym. And by the way, you'll notice Eric Swalwell will describe it as a private house gym, where you have to be a house member to go there. And I go, we get it, Eric. We know what a private gym is.
Those who know better are terrified. So I hear this so that there's a couple places where I go where I get the real from these guys, where I hear like what is really going on.
First of all, the problem is too, you've got white bread Eric Swalwell talking to the black dude and saying, this is where I get the real. It's like, all right. That now the guy from high school, right?
Let me get my hot sauce out of my purse.
Yeah, this is I'm gonna get the real right here, Charlemagne.
House gym. So there's this members gym where only members can work out.
Oh, is that what a members gym is? Where only members can work out? Okay, gotcha. Thanks for explaining that.
The fitness staff.
They don't look like they're in shape at all, but go ahead.
We that's right. They should probably spend more time there.
Just talking.
But only members are allowed. So you can there's no cameras, no phones allowed. Thank you, Anthony Weiner. Those photos came from the members gym.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I hear like what's really going on, at like the workout stations or being on the treadmill next to someone's elliptical.
Ugh.
And I used to think it was that they were afraid of losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of their personal security. And one member recently told me, he said, look, my wife told me, like, the phrase was, don't be the tallest poppy in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you speak out, life's going to be hell for your kids. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to enjoy going to church. We're not going to be welcome at the country club.
You believe this crap? I mean, doesn't it tell you everything that's wrong with the house and even these GOP guys? You're not going to be welcome at they mentioned the country club like everybody is a member of a country club. Unbelievable. So anyway, what he's saying is the GOP guys are afraid that Trump's going to kill them if they disagree with him. This is all such nonsense. Anyway, what better man to cut through the nonsense is the real life common sense dude named Rick Pogue, my good friend, and overall great guy, and a man who not only has his great ideas, but he also, along with Jake, runs the beautiful restaurant down there right in High Ridge, the Hideout, and then, of course, right at Hideout at Sugar Creek. Anyway, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing well. How are you? Happy June.
I'm doing fine. I want to see you and Eric Swalwell fight. That's what I want to do.
It'd be 2 hits, me hitting him, him hitting the floor. It's funny. He talks about the gym. It looks like he's never in a gym to me. First of all, and I can't even take the guy seriously. I mean, you watch his sound bites, which is what he wants to be famous for. Once he asks these people questions, and all I want to do is go, "How's Fang Fang?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He got a complete pass on that.
I totally agree. And Rick, do you have? I mean, I have people, people I know, and people in my family and friends who vote Democrat. Do you have discussions with some people about the future of the Democrat Party? Do you have any Democrat friends in your realm there?
Yeah. I just had an old customer pull up next to me, Jamie. I'm at Arrowhead now, and an old buddy of mine just pulled up. And I'm on the phone, buddy. Sorry about that, Jamie.
He wants to shake your hand, man. You must have, as usual, probably helped him out.
I don't, I was just sitting back here hiding, and he found me, so I apologize for that. But yeah, no. Ask me a question again. Do we discuss what now?
So when you're with like you have Democrat friends, I mean, we all kind of know somebody who's a Democrat. Do they talk to you about what their concerns are, what the future of the Democrat Party is?
Well, I do have Democrat friends, frankly, and many of them are former customers at Arrowhead. And that was one of them there, actually. But they don't talk. They typically don't like to talk politics with me.
Yeah.
And so, and plus I'm a little outspoken. So yeah, I do have conversations with friends that are Democrats, and what their concerns are and stuff, but it's usually over a couple drinks because it takes, that's what they need to get the nerve up to talk to me about it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think really
I'm a little opinionated.
Well, I think in the end, I think some of it might have to do with the fact that it's not really your tone or whatever. It's probably they just don't want to hear that because you tell them the truth. And it's probably something they don't want to hear because that's the only alternative then if they hear the truth is to not even support the Democrat Party anymore. So.
No, you're right. And I get a lot of that. I get a lot of good friends that, I consider smart friends. I mean, I have friends that vote Democrat typically, historically, and they're smart, but they'll bring something to me every once in a while. And what do you think about, Trump doing this? And it'll be something completely ridiculous that they saw somewhere on national media that's not true. My frustration when I'm talking to these people is first thing I do is explain to how that's not a legit question. And here's why.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree.
They got to get over that hump first before they can talk about issues.
Yeah, and what's really great too, I really feel like we're really in a great place right now in the Make America Great Again movement because, man, are we cleaning house on almost every single level, whether it be this one Islamic jihadist terrorist up in Boulder. They're deporting his entire family. They're starting to run people out of the universities with their pro-Hamas garbage, and they're raiding a bunch of illegal dens like in South Carolina. They're starting to just start to pluck all these people out who vote Democrat, by the way, which is why the Democrats are pissed. And the only thing left for us to do that would really be good is to fumigate the United States of America and our universities of all Chinese nationals. And that is kick every single one of them out, especially after we found these other guys who brought in this fungus and it came in at the Michigan lab. This is after about 4 years ago, they caught these guys carrying biomaterials in their socks. They were associated with Harvard. They're catching these guys taking pictures of a Florida military base. I mean, I think every single Chinese national needs to be kicked out immediately.
I completely agree with you. And, we're all worried about, Mideastern terrorists. And that's kind of what we've, the profile we look at. China represents more of a threat to this country than anything else in the world right now. And that includes Mideast terrorism. China is not our friend. They're not our ally. They want to destroy us. They want to overtake us. Put it this way. They want to overtake our economy and then gain control of our economy by doing so. And then they own the world if we let that happen. There is no way in the world China should own 1 square foot of American land if we can't buy land in China. And all this property around these military bases, this may sound extreme. I think we need to seize them and send them fair market price for the land and say you cannot own that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, remember, in Missouri for a while, and there were some good people involved in this, but they became smarter off the bat. And remember the whole China hub thing that they were trying to pass through? This was about 20 years ago or something. And there were people going, yeah, the China hub's important because it's a way for us to get our soybeans over to China and help our farmers and everything else. And it turned out really that it was just part of an overall plan on the part of the Chinese to buy up real estate, which they are doing. They're buying actually home subdivisions and things like that. And man, I'm telling you what, I say we need to, even if we have to, bring back the internment camps so that we have some place to put them before we deport them, because I think they're that dangerous.
I don't disagree at all, Jamie. How in the world can we get to the point where we allow all these Chinese nationals to do what they're doing? Do we really believe, under COVID, all the Chinese extra, how many hundreds of thousands were there? There were a couple 100,000, right? Chinese nationals came in under that.
Oh, yeah.
The last 4 Biden years. Do we really think China's not sending people over here to spy on us? I mean, come on. I agree with you.
Well, and plus, Rick, we were also, with the whole thing with that Wuhan lab. I mean, I don't think there's any question that the COVID was absolutely man-made, made by the Chinese. It was a bioweapon that I think that there are some Americans who knew about it, including Dr. Fauci. And I think the investigation into all that is not over and shouldn't be. And I don't think in any way, shape, or form the COVID thing was a natural occurrence. And even if it was I don't even think it was a lab leak. I think it was a purposeful leak. And it was designed as a bioterror weapon by the Chinese and elements of the deep state in the U.S.
I think you're right. And I also think, unfortunately for us, Jamie, I think it had the desired effect that they wanted on the world economy and on the U.S. economy, because we reacted exactly like scared little kids, and we started shutting down. We shut down all these businesses. Millions of businesses are gone now because of that. People lost their freedoms. You had parents at kids' football games and soccer games being arrested for not wearing a mask. We must never forget what happened to us under COVID by the government. It was criminal. It was absolutely criminal what happened to us all. Essential business, non-essential business. Are you kidding me? Big national chains get to remain open and supply everybody while these poor mom and pops just go out of business. Don't even get me started on COVID.
Well, I used to think, Rick, that there was a time, and it wasn't too long ago, that I thought, okay, let's just say COVID was accidental, whatever. But then I thought, well, but it's still what happened is the Democrats and the deep state and others took advantage of it and used it to their advantage in changing the way we vote, changing the way we operate, cutting us off at the knees economically, everything else. And now I'm fully of the belief that everything was originally planned, that everything was concocted, that this was a regimented, planned out, thought about attack. And I believe that it has been in the works for a long time. And so while I used to think that, they were just taking advantage of it, now I believe it was all purposeful.
I don't disagree. I mean, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to connect all these dots and just connect the facts and say, wow, this does look planned. And it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. The big question is, are we going to allow our government to do what they did last time? or
never. There's no way. I mean, there is no way. And even when you look at the whole vaccine mandate and everything else, I said I was doing the show at the time when Biden did the vaccine mandate. And I said, you watch what happens here, because you do realize this isn't a mandate. There's nothing on paper. And just the mere fact that Joe Biden said it will have probably 75% of the corporations preemptively reacting and forcing the vaccines on their employees. And I guarantee you, when all is said and done, it will never have been written down on a piece of paper. And it wasn't.
Yeah, not surprised. That COVID vaccine was a scheme. And you talk about something that needs to be investigated and exposed. Pharmaceutical companies guarantee, look at the sales they got out of this. Look what Moderna and Pfizer and these companies gained out of it. And, didn't they get complete immunity from prosecution, if I remember right? I think they were granted that to make this vaccine. It was a racket. It was a fleecing the American people racket.
Yep.
And we got to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You got all these Democrats going, well, let's just move on. Yeah, I'll bet they're saying that now. We can't move on until we figure this out. We still need to investigate the auto pen. This is baloney. The president doesn't even, the actual president of the United States didn't even know that these things were signed, the executive orders were signed, and we're supposed to let that go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, back to China real quickly, some of the wise people on our feed here, including Jason, and Kathleen chimed in too, and Dave did too. And they did point out, I think we need to say this, back in the day of the China hub and everything else, that was the Bush era. And it also, and I'm sure he regrets it, but it was Eric Schmidt who was part of that whole push. But it was also like Jim Talent and these guys. And the reality is, I think I know on Eric's part, he was probably another one of those guys misled by this promise of helping Missouri agriculture and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of us were by this idea that somehow this was going to help our people, when actually it was totally a ruse for the Communist Party of China to get its hand in what we're doing. And so, yeah, there were a lot of Republicans involved in that whole thing, but I'm not quite sure their goal was the same as what China's goal was, and we finally caught on to it, thankfully.
Yeah, and that's a very fair point. Very, both sides of the aisle are guilty of it. We're capitalists. We get greedy. Capitalists get greedy. We like winning. We like gaining. So China knows this. The Chinese government, the CCP knows this. So they play on that, just like you said. And I'm just glad we're waking up to it. And we need to grow the spine that we're growing now, because Donald Trump won. We need to continue to let that spine grow and lash back out at these people. Everybody's coming for us, but China is in the lead. They gained. I think they gained 7 or 8% on us overall, economy-wise, during COVID. They gain on us every year, but those few years of COVID, I think it may have been as much as 10%. They closed the gap between our economies. If they ever overtake our economy, just imagine a world like that. That's when they'll be able to call their note in and control us financially. It would be hell.
Yeah.
In the United States. We can never allow that to happen.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, dude, hey, I was down around your neck of the woods in High Ridge, where Hideout is, and I was actually I was down showing a home, and it was about 4:00, and I'm thinking, man, I'll just pull in to the Hideout and grab some wings and take them home and everything else. And then remember I had to do something else. And so one of these days, because that's where I'm showing a lot of homes down there, I'm going to pop right in there and maybe just even sit down and have a cold beer or some wings after my house showings.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Please do. Dude, I was there yesterday for a meeting, and after the meeting, I ordered the pub burger. Our burgers, our new burger patties are just incredibly delicious. I mean, you've got to try them.
Yeah.
They're an inch and a half. They're an inch and a half thick. They're flame grilled. But Eric Fears, our general manager, he's a burger guru. So he's really into he judges a restaurant by its burger, similarly to myself. But he is a craftsman, and he's really made some phenomenal burgers there.
Nice.
Everything's good. We're known for our wings.
Yeah.
We now have the pizzas that are phenomenal. But man, try our burgers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And of course, you guys have the dinner specials every night as well, and lunch and dinner 7 days a week. And of course, the music out there. It's nice and beautiful and warm now to have that music on the patio. So, ton of fun.
Ford Friday.
Pardon me?
Bobby Ford Band.
Oh, nice.
This Friday.
Oh.
And if you like the Zach Brown Band, you will absolutely adore the Bobby Ford Band.
Oh,
So
nice.
Come out, check it out.
All right, buddy. Yeah, I'll be in San Diego by then, but I will get out there for some music and for some joy, and maybe for some hideout and golf all mixed together down there at the Sugar Creek Golf Course.
Let's do it all, man. Just name it.
All right, brother. Hey, listen, I appreciate your time, man. As usual, you're the best. Love you, and have a great rest of your week.
Love you, man. Have a great week. Let's just keep forging ahead.
Right on, brother. I appreciate it so much. That is the great Rick Pogue, who I love having on the show every week. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Colombo and Company.
Special legislative session happening in Jeff City. We'll get an update on what's happening Wednesday from Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd. Then we'll open Close's cabinet.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Ladies and gents, Window World, so amazing. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800, the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues, the preferred window of remodelers all across the country, the preferred windows of good housekeeping and its seal of approval, the preferred window of millions of Americans. Its durability and its thermal superiority are beyond compare. And at this price, you're not going to do any better. And you're not going to be doing any better as it relates to the service before, during, and after the sale. That is what Window World is all about. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800. Now offering 36 months, same as cash financing with your approved credit. And one final note, I'll tell you what, if you go ahead and go to call them at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800, go ahead and mention my name and let them know that Allman sent you, and I guarantee you there will be something in it for you when, of course, you drop my name. Simply the best for last. Window World, 314-993-1800.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Yes, everybody. It's weird because, when you talk about internment camps and stuff, you can get intentionally provocative. But, at some point, man, these people, especially these commie Chinese who we're inviting into the U.S. for these collaborative types of journeys, is just so dangerous and so wrong. And what's interesting? I did bring up the Harvard thing that happened. It was kind of during COVID, so there wasn't much attention paid to it. And in fact, it was the chairman of the Harvard chemistry department who wound up being indicted. But I've got to follow up on that and find out exactly how that fleshed out, because for some reason, it suddenly became something of a buried story. And I am not quite sure why. And so I remember it was a big deal, but it was overshadowed by all the COVID hysteria and everything else. And so what happened was they caught a bunch of people who, a couple of Chinese nationals, and what they did was they tried to smuggle biomaterial in their socks, and it was discovered in their suitcases. And whatever was going on there could not have been something that was legitimate or whatever else. And I don't know at what point we're going to take this kind of stuff seriously, because believe me, you've got to, you're smuggling bioweapons and biomaterials and dangerous pathogens and things like that. Why are you doing that? Why, are we ever going to know? And by the way, this China story with the fungus and everything else, you realize how underreported this story is. It's kind of like a wallpaper story, but one of the reasons for that is there were so many companies in this country, so many people with interests in China. Like, for instance, Warner Brothers owns one of the major networks. Well, Warner Brothers wants to sell its movies over in China. They want to show their movies over in China. So you think Warner Brothers is going to have, I forgot what network they own. I think it's ABC or I don't know really. But what I'm saying is a lot of the corporation, the corporate masters of a lot of these networks do business with China in their other kinds of lines of work. And so that's why you don't really see it in the mainstream media, because so many mainstream media outlets are owned by larger conglomerates that have entertainment divisions and others, including, for instance, like Disney and everything else, and ABC and others that have actual interests in their relationship with China. So when China gets busted for stupid stuff like this and for really dangerous stuff like this, it doesn't really get reported at the level that it normally would, because these guys don't want to upset the Chinese. Same way with the NBA and all that kind of stuff. So you got to watch out for that, but that's one of the reasons why it's not really widely reported. Anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Johnny, thank you so much for everything, brother. And of course, coming up next, it's Tony Colombo and Company. And for now, signing off here. Talk to you tomorrow. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel, and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
When you've got something to say, be heard loud and clear.
If they'll just do what they were voted in to do.
This party needs to get a backbone. They need to get some spine.
Join the conversation. St. Louis's place to talk.
The Democrats and the Republicans can give us all the lip service they want, but what they need to do is take action today.
1019 and 94.1.
You have to take a stand sometimes.
This is News Talk STL.